Welcome to A Gentleman's Review. I'm Arthur Hampton. I'm your host, bringing you news that the mainstream propaganda does not talk about. And today, I have a special guest here that is Charlice Byrd. She is the most conservative state house representative in the state of Georgia. Welcome to the show, Charlice.
Thank you for having me, Arthur. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what is your focus coming up on this next legislative session in Georgia. You start what in 2 weeks, the 13th, and
We do.
what is your focus going to be on? Or do you have any bills ready to go? What are you thinking?
Well, there's a lot to think through, that is for sure. Recently, I met with my Georgia Freedom Caucus organization, and we talked about what our priorities would be. And so we came up with what we call a path to prosperity. And it is to follow along with our new president, Donald Trump's, and strong victory to be a part of all of that. And so, there are four things that we are focused on this coming session as a Georgia Freedom Caucus. And one is to eliminate the state income tax within the next 10 years. As you know, that all of the states around Georgia do not have a state income tax. And if anybody in their right mind wanted to open a new business here in Georgia, I would not do it because we do not do, we have a state income tax. This past year, they raved about the what we had done for the state income tax, and it was 1/10 of 1 point, is what the legislature voted on this past year. And we hope to take it down to zero no later than 2035. The second thing is to, of course, to enhance public safety by standing with our law enforcement. I mean, look at what happened in New Orleans just on New Year's morning. Disgraceful to our country and what has happened. And we need to definitely stand by our law enforcement and support them and give them the funding and the tools they need to watch over the public safety of this country and the state of Georgia. The third item is making sure that cities and counties officials are liable for sanctuary policies. Right here in Georgia, you probably well know that Laken Riley was brutally murdered by an illegal immigrant, and we must stop sanctuary policies. You would think an elected official would be much more concerned about American citizens that are here legally as opposed to the illegals that we are letting into our country. We have no vetting process. The fourth is to enact protections for women and children from the radical transgender agenda. We must stop all of the nonsense, the wokeness of our state and country. We must watch over our young ladies because a man and a woman are already defined by our God, and there is nothing that can change the design that God has made. We must take care of those people.
So the eliminate the income tax, that would be awesome. I might move to Georgia. um,
So listen, I think more people would.
I mean, really, people are moving to the southeast in droves. I mean, just massively in droves. And my territory it now covers South Carolina all the way to Texas. So I haven't been in
Mm.
Georgia as much as I used to could be able to go. But it seems like there's this mass influx of people escaping California, Ohio, Washington, New York, all these
New
places where the
York.
taxes are really high. There's a lot of liberal, I'm not even going to say liberal, I mean communist policies that are very draconian in that. And they're just moving down here, escaping taxes, escaping this. I think about half of them understand why they're leaving, and the other half just It's just a better place to live down here. And then they come down here and try to make it like it is up there. I don't know if you saw the presidential election in my state in South Carolina, but we had a lot of blue districts that voted for Camilla, and I wasn't really surprised, but I wanted to wake people up because we're not as blue as we're not as red as we once was because of this mass influx of immigrants coming in from all these liberal or communist states. Myrtle Beach was the fastest growing city in America this past year. Greenville, South Carolina has been the fourth fastest for years. Charleston, sixth fastest, and I'm sure there's several cities in Georgia that's the same way. I think Columbus is one of the fastest growing in Georgia. I think it's the second largest city in Georgia next to Atlanta only. And you eliminate Atlanta, and Georgia's just like South Carolina. It's just like Tennessee. It's just like Alabama. We have a Republican supermajority. And Atlanta is really the only thing that makes Georgia Democrat. And the liberals, they know that. And so they just run on the Republican ticket. So is there any effort to target rhino Republicans or liberal Republicans, to be quite frank?
I wish that we could. I attended a couple of conferences before the in December, and listening to those individuals speak. And one of them is the Young Americans for Liberty, along with Hazlitt. And they talk about what we need to do to get rid of those insiders. And they use the word insider as opposed to a rhino or any communist or whatever else other word you'd want to use. And it is our job as conservatives to start recruiting individuals that we think would be excellent candidates that would be willing to drive our policies and move away from all of the liberal individuals that are already there. Of course, we do know that trying to eliminate any incumbent is a big challenge because more the people that get out and vote, they prefer the devil they know as opposed to the devil they don't know.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, there are so many people that no longer even want to be involved in politics. I mean, when you start looking around of the people that want to run for public office these days, I mean, it is status quo. I mean, if you know them personally, it's amazing that they want the same thing. They believe that federal money coming into the state of Georgia is going to help our budget. And right now, to to best of my knowledge, Georgia lives on half of federal government money to fix our budget or to fill in the budget. And then we're no different from a lot of other states. So how you fix that? Listen, we're all in that same spot that we have no idea what to do anymore.
Well, what I've found is a lot of times what happens is Georgia pays the federal government, so much, and then they turn around and give you that money back. But when they give you the money back, it comes with strings, and that's the problem. They're centrally controlling all of the states through grants and through things like that. One of the things that I noticed, and I don't know if many people caught it, was Putin with his interview with Tucker Carlson. I don't know if you saw that or not, but one thing that I noticed, he said, "You Americans, you're so inefficient. You have all of these state legislators legislating." He said, "I would eliminate all of that and just have one legislator that is in D.C." And I'm like, that's very communistic. It's very centrally controlled. But what our founding fathers give us was a republic with the decentralization of power so that we cannot be controlled from the top down. And that's some of the stuff that I've seen that I try to explain to people, and I don't know if I'm making very much headway. People they don't believe that a lot of the things and policies that they're implementing has to do with communism, or and I point to the Communist Manifesto, or they don't think it's that bad, and then when I point to it, they go, "Oh, that's not redistribution of wealth. That's crony capitalism." I'm like, well, if it's a spade, it's a spade. Um, but I wanted to touch on a little bit about the public safety you mentioned. The big thing there is, and you've heard defund the police, and they're doing what they're doing in Georgia to a lesser degree. But why they want that is you defund the local police, which chaos ensues. And then someone comes up with this bright idea. Hey, let's come up with a national police force, or let's combine all the three-letter agencies into one, and we need help to aid the local police. And then you come up with this nationalized police force, and then you're able to oppress the people. And it doesn't take very long. Just look at the 20th century alone. Every single dictator in the 20th century has had their own nationalized police force. Chairman Mao Zedong, the Chinese Communist, he had the secret police. Hitler had the Gestapo. Lenin started the KGB. I mean, and it goes on and on and on. And so that's what we see, is that's the first step, because the people are going to cry out for justice. What happened? People are going to cry out. And if you defund the local police, well, they're not going to have the resources they need to protect the people. And one of the things that we have is you elect a sheriff. His children go to church. His children go to school with your children. You go to church with him. He's a local guy. And it's hard to get that individual that it's elected by the people to oppress the people. But if you have an outside force, or an outside police force that is not from there, that don't identify with the people, that they don't go to church together, they don't fellowship together, or their children don't play together, it's easier to get them to oppress the people. Is that some of the stuff that you're seeing there, or is that too big picture, or?
Well, we have to keep in mind that once you give something to someone, they're going to continue to want it. And as my mother always used to say, I give you a mile, I give you an inch and you take a mile. And that's what has happened with government. We have continued to give a little bit here, a little bit there, and now government's fingers are in everything. There is not one thing that I can think of in Georgia that government is not involved in. We're
Yeah.
now involved in affordable housing. We're involved in taking care of your health insurance. We want to be sure that you have we're workforce ready. So we're paying for you to go to school, you name it. And people love when they are able to get things from government. And then to come in and all of us say you need to cut it or chop it, it is not going to happen. All it does is continue to grow. And then we are absolutely in a communist country, because it will have the haves and the have nots. I mean, that is proven across the world. I mean, all you have to do is look at China and Russia, look at Venezuela, you know
Yeah.
it. But you know, I mean, the whole public safety, certainly here in Cherokee County, I thank the good Lord that we are a red county. And in fact, 10 years ago, we were at 84% red. We are now down to about 74% red. However, this past election, we bumped it up by about almost 2 points, that more people voted red, which is thrilling to be in Cherokee County. However, everybody that wants to escape Atlanta and all of their blue counties now are moving into Cherokee County, and it's a challenge for our sheriff's office and certainly the police departments in our county. They would probably love to pick up illegals or ask for their papers, do those sorts of things, but then we're told that we are stepping on their rights, and we do not have that ability to do that. So, I mean, everybody's got this fine line now, and they're not sure where you're supposed to cross it or not. That is one of the big problems, not only in Cherokee County, but across the state of Georgia and the country.
Yeah. And it's funny because I was in, was it Jasper or Ringgold, and I was talking to several people there, and they said, well, 40 years ago I lived in Atlanta, and then I moved away from Atlanta. I moved to Roswell, And then Roswell got overpopulated, so now I'm living up here in Jasper in the mountains, and I'm like, man, you just keep moving away from everybody. Atlanta just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The
That
population just
is
keeps
true.
growing.
Well, I mean, because look at the last census. I mean, Atlanta grew by about 1 million people. I mean, that
Wow.
is huge. And what's going to happen with Georgia? And that goes back to the point we talked about earlier. To change Georgia now is not going to happen. I mean, it would have to take something major because as Atlanta grows, they are going to be the ones who will dictate everything for the state of Georgia because there's not enough suburban, urban, and rural areas to take care of the voters that are happening in actually Atlanta, Fulton County. So that's a concern. I mean, it should be for the people of Cherokee County for sure.
Everybody wants to talk about Fulton County. That seems to be a
Yeah,
county everybody. No matter where I go in Georgia, they're always talking about Fulton County. Oh man,
that's right. I think we should pull their charter.
um, so the other thing that you mentioned was sanctuary policies and illegal immigrants. I really see what the new world order in that this they want a one world community or one world government, and you can't really have borders if you have if you want a one world government, you can't really have borders. And so this mass influx of illegals coming and going, and you have all these. Camilla was the czar, the border czar, and she done nothing, and all these different things like that. I really see them wanting a borderless society to push for that in this. It's what I envision, and that's why they don't care about the illegals. They want to help the illegals come in here, and then they give them all these things. You get a free cell phone. Your children get to go to school here without having to pay taxes, and this, that, and the other. And it's like you get health care, you get housing, and it's like, well, why would you not want to go anywhere else or do anything? I'm getting to stay for free. My children are getting educated for free. I get free health care. I get a stipend. I get a free cell phone. I get cable. I get internet. I get all these things. Why would I go anywhere else? I mean, it's incentivizing it, and we're paying for it. And we may not pay for it directly in taxes, but we pay for it in inflation. I mean, Milton Friedman um, said it would be foolhardy to implement a balanced budget because the economy always balances itself. Either you pay for it in taxes or you pay for it in inflation. And that's really what's happening. They're spending, and whether you have a balanced budget or not, they're spending, and you're going to pay for it either with your money being worth less or you're going to pay for it more in taxes. The economy always balances itself. And that's just the way it works, especially when you get to manipulating things. You pick the winners and losers, or you take from the bourgeoisie and you give it to the proletariat. That's the wording used in the Communist Manifesto. That's kind of what we see there. Um, so let's move on to the transgender woke thing. I am glad to say in South Carolina here they passed a no, I think it was no harm bill or whatnot. To receive transgender surgery, you have to have the signature of a guardian or parent before you can receive that. So we're really relying on the sanity of the parents there. But I guess that's a step. Maybe the parents are a little bit more sane than the kids. I don't know. So we're really relying on that. Is there a bill like that in Georgia, or are you pushing for something like that?
Well, this past session, we did pass a bill that no one under 18 years old could have a transgender surgery.
Okay.
However, no one is held liable for anything if, in the event, a doctor does, in fact, perform a surgery. So it's really, to me, it's a moot point. because someone
It's
has to be held
unenforceable.
liable if they
Yeah.
do a surgery on someone under 18 years old. I mean, it is insane. Now, should they be thrown in prison? To me, yes. However, a lot of people don't believe that should happen, that maybe they should be sued civilly. So that's something that we have to think through. But no, I mean, we have it's on the books now. Is it going to happen? Who knows? I don't know. I have not done any research recently to see if hospitals are still doing surgeries on young children. I know at the same conference that I was at in December, if I'm not mistaken, it was Pennsylvania that has the largest amount of children that are having surgeries to change their sex. And we're talking about 4 and 5 year old children. They have no clue what they are other than what God appointed their sex. I mean, our country is so out of whack. And I want to say that the reason we are out of whack because we have moved so far from God, which was a part of the manifesto, to be sure that people now don't know what's right from wrong and wrong from right. I mean, everything has done reverse because we are all about worshiping ourselves and other things as opposed to worshiping God, that our country was built on Judeo Christian values.
Well, I think that's part of the agenda there. They want to take God off of his throne as creator and put themselves there. Well, I can create myself in whatever image that I want to be. I can be a boy, I can be a girl, I can be whatever. And I think ultimately that's what it comes down to. And 4 year olds and 5 year olds, they don't. I mean, I got two boys, and they're 5 and 6 now, but one of them was 4, and somebody had bought him a toboggan that had cat ears, and it had two eyes on it. So it was like you put it on and you got cat ears, and you know, he's like a cat. And he puts
Yeah.
it on and he runs around the house and going, I'm a cat, Daddy. Look, I'm a cat. And I'm thinking, you know, if I was a crazy liberal or, you know, part of the woke garbage, well, guess what? I'll get the litter box out and let him do whatever. And I'm
Exactly.
like, golly, he's a little boy playing pretend. I mean, that's just what it is. Or and it was funny. A couple of weeks ago, I took him to a hospital to go visit somebody, and the bathroom was a single stall bathroom, and it had a boy and a girl on it, and a slash. So either or, because you go in there as one
Right.
stall. And my son, Augustine, he goes, and I say, okay, let's go in here. And he looks at the thing and he sees the girl on there, and he goes, no, I'm not a girl. I'm not a girl. I don't need to go in there. I am not a girl. And I'm like, it's both. It's a single stall. It doesn't matter. And it was crazy trying to get him in there to go to the bathroom. But
It is
it,
insane. I listen, when I was growing up a long time ago, we used to play with GI Joe when we were outside. We ran around with boys. We did boy things and then we got home, went home, took a shower, took a bath, and we put a dress on. I mean, you were called just a tomboy. Um, it didn't change who I was. It didn't change my sister. Certainly didn't change my brother to want to be a girl because he would run around with the girls. So I mean, the world is upside down. And for parents, because your child wanted to wear cat ears, and all of a sudden now you want to tell them that they are a cat and they should have a litter box in their classroom. I mean, uh, crazy. All you can say is crazy.
honestly, and then there was that video of that woman that wants to sue the school because they're not on board with her son or whatnot, not identifying as a cat. If I was a principal or a teacher or whatnot, I'd say, look, okay, he wants to be a cat. He wants to be a cat. Let's go to the lunchroom. Let's buy some dry cat food. And he wants to eat that. No, he doesn't eat people food. He's not people. He is a cat. Let's put it in a little bowl in the floor. Dry cat food. You want to take it this way? Let's go. We're gonna
Seriously.
eat. We're gonna eat dry cat food, and you're gonna eat it out of a bowl without using your hands in the floor. You want to do that? Let's do it. You want to take it?
Yeah.
We're going to take it all the way. Oh, by the way, cats don't go to school. Right? Just get out of here. I mean, this whole thing is ludicrous. I mean, I think there was one, a cop pulled a guy over in, I think it was California, and he had a leash, and the guy in the passenger seat was holding the leash, and the guy's like, I don't have a license. I'm a dog. And the cop goes, he's like trying to work with him, and finally he just has enough. He goes, okay, dogs are not allowed to drive cars. You're going to come to jail. Here's the fine. You're going to pay it, or you're going to show me a license. And finally they're like, yeah, okay, here's a license. The ludicrousy has just got to stop. The absurdity has to stop. And there's a passage in the Bible in Proverbs. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. The fear of the Lord, and that the Hebrew word can also mean wisdom, and wisdom or knowledge, either or. I think it can be both. And so that's what we're seeing is they don't fear the Lord, and so they don't have knowledge. You're turned into an absurdity. And the opposite of wisdom is foolishness. You see the foolishness, I guess childish foolishness, that is going on today because they don't fear God. And quite frankly, the Bible says foolishness is bound up in a child, but the rod of correction will keep them far from it. I think their parents have withheld the rod of correction, and they have kept that foolishness in that. Look at what we're seeing today. This, I'm a dog, I'm a cat, I can do what I want to do. And it's like, I don't know.
That was all the planned purpose to eventually take God out of the United States of America, because it was the one very different thing from every other country in this world. And I mean, we're uh, treading lightly on that. I mean, there's an evangelist that goes to First Baptist Church, and he's a friend. And the other day, I'm reading one of his books called Awakening by Steve Hale.
Mm-hmm.
It's now or never. And he talked about churches that are now doing cotton candy, and they are country clubs with a steeple, which is about what they are, because it's all about feelings anymore. It's nothing to do with the Bible and religion and teaching that sin is wrong, hell and damnation as they used to, so that people would get back to the sanity part. And people don't believe in sin anymore. They can just do, it's free for all. And that's what's happening to our children now. I'm a big proponent on the only way we're going to get things to change, and that is to hold parents accountable. Put those parents in jail and in prisons for letting their children do exactly what they want to do. And because we know that children's brains are still being formed until they're in their teens and early 20s for men. So, how would you know whether you're a girl or a boy or you're anything else if your parent didn't push that onto your child? It's crazy. It makes me crazy. So,
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining me, and we got a little bit more to talk about. So stay tuned next time for part 2 of this interview here with the most conservative state representative in Georgia. That's Charlice Byrd. Also, tell them where they can find you in case they want to look you up.
yes, indeed. You may look me up by Charlice Byrd, one word.org. There's we're working on my new website, and it's going to have some good stuff there. I also want to state that I am the chair of the Georgia Freedom Caucus. So yes, thank you very much for that plug for the most conservative, because I am, and it drives everybody in the state of Georgia crazy.
Indeed. Well, if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and let people know about what's going on. And stay tuned next time for part 2. This is A Gentleman's Review. Thank you.